Hello everyone! Welcome to Messy Heart, where we dive deep into troubling accounts and messy relationships, hoping to provide support and advice to those who might seek it. Let's head into our first story. Listen carefully and give us your thoughts on the comments section. Story 1. My husband of 18 years told me tonight he's just filed for divorce. My husband, 56M, and I, 56F, have been together for 20 plus years and married for 18. Lately we've been going through awful times. These awful times include him losing 2 jobs in a 6MO period, August 23rd and February 24th, him losing a car to repo, April 24th, him requiring knee surgery, January 24th, him gradually becoming more and more depressed during this entire time. And unbeknownst to me, he started using meth, February 24th or March 24th. In June 24th, we were evicted from our home. We then stayed 4 or 5 weeks in a hotel, ran out of money, and ended up at his son's house early in July of this year. When his son was younger, he and I did not get along. So considering we were homeless and living in our car, at that point we had to stay any place that would have us. I told my husband I had a really bad feeling about staying with his son, but because we had no other options, we had to just suck it up. Starting almost immediately, my husband and stepson were constantly arguing and bickering. My stepson, 33M, holds loads of anger inside him because my husband left my stepson's mom when he was just 8. He blames his dad entirely for this and refuses to acknowledge the situation had 2 sides. My husband won't talk badly about his son's mom, so he's unaware that she was constantly cheating on his dad and was known to disappear for days and days on end without so much as a phone call. But all of this is beside the point. After being at his son's house for a short while, he, stepson, started texting me lots, telling me he didn't like how his dad treated me, asking if any of my friends would be willing to go out with him, asking me if any of my friends look as good as me, etc., etc. To say I felt uncomfortable is too mild of a word. It actually made my skin crawl. And as the weeks went on, he just did it more and more, even though I told him I felt uncomfortable, and he got more inappropriate as time went on. Being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse at the hands of my father, it's like I was frozen. I couldn't tell my husband. I was ashamed. Even though I'd done nothing wrong, I just couldn't tell him what was happening. Also though, I didn't want to start something because then we'd have no place to go and would again be living out of our car. I just couldn't do that to my husband. He was already using meth. I didn't find out what he was using until about 2 weeks ago, though I knew he was using something. Previous to this time period, his drug of choice had been cocaine. I didn't want to make the situation worse than it was, and I didn't want to see him using even more. He's been very erratic for 8 or 9 mo's now. His moods are all over the place. He's lost roughly 60 pounds since January 24th. He can't find a new job. He ranges from verbally abusing himself to verbally abusing me. He's repeatedly accused me of doing things I'm not. He won't take care of himself. He refuses to take a prescribed antidepressant and says therapy is stupid and a waste of time. Now on to the part that's giving me so much sadness and grief. Back in 2011, I did something that's very shameful to me as well as being embarrassing. During this time, my husband was very busy. He was in firefighter's school and working full-time. I became a side note to him. I told him I was unhappy and that I felt like I came 4th or 5th on his list of important things. We never had any time together. We'd make plans, but he was always too tired. He always had other things going on regardless of what I wanted or how I felt. The time I also was in the midst of fighting off the worst bout of diagnosed depression in my life. I'd gone through a divorce about 6 or 7 years previous, and ever since then I just couldn't bounce back. One day out of nowhere, I ended up getting a message on an app one used. It was this incredible looking guy that just started talking to me. I thought it was strange, but I talked back with him for a while. He seemed really nice, and upon saying goodbye, he told me he'd talk with me soon. So, as days went by and we were talking to each other more and more, it was the first time I'd felt like I mattered or like my feelings mattered in a very long time. My husband wasn't around and didn't seem to care what I did, so I just kept talking. Eventually, this guy told me he was coming up to visit my home state from his home state. I made arrangements with a friend of mine to vouch for me, and I was going to go meet this person. Except that nothing ever happened. The guy never came here, and I didn't even leave my house that night. About a week or two after that, my husband caught me texting this guy. Quite obviously, he was furious and he was hurt. I'd broken his heart. I disappointed myself so badly. I hated myself. I told myself every minute of every day what a stupid, terrible person I was. I truly, truly hated myself for making him hurt so much. And he let me know he was hurt too. In no time at all, he was being vicious towards me. He didn't hit me or physically hurt me, but he'd call me names, tell me I was a bad person, accuse me of cheating anytime I would receive a text. I have 4 kids of my own, so I would receive and send sometimes more than 100 texts in a day. Plus, I had friends I would talk with, and he always questioned who I was texting with or talking to. And again, the accusations were constant. I begged him to go to therapy. In fact, I even started back to therapy on my own, but I still kept asking him to come with me. He finally agreed to give it a try. After we finished our first visit, he asked why it didn't work. I told him that therapy takes time. After all, the problems don't develop overnight, so they won't be resolved overnight. But he told me he'd never be returning with me, and he never did. Now jump forward 13 years. So we're here in his son's house, and almost instantly he starts accusing me of all sorts of stuff again. He'd send me countless Instagram videos about women that cheat. They were always denigrating and cruel, as if I was stupid on top of everything else. I finally told him that I needed him to stop, that it was really hurting me, that I felt like I was going to shut down because I can't deal with the constant pestering and cruelty. But he didn't care. He just kept right on going. One thing I haven't mentioned is that I also have fibromyalgia. I've had it for almost 30 years. This is another sore spot because I haven't worked in many years, and I'm constantly told I'm lazy and that I do nothing important because I don't make money. I'm unable due to constant chronic pain, migraines, depression, and the meds I take. He told me not long after we'd arrived here that his drug use is completely my fault, and that was also when the subject of divorce was first brought up. He told me he can't do it anymore. He can't be the only one that works, constantly fight with me or deal with my moods. He can't deal with me not accepting responsibility for anything, and he just wants out. We finally were able to talk after a few days of mostly silence, but then he and his son got in a huge fight and his son kicked him out. Not me, of course, but him. It was then I told him about what his son had been doing and that I wasn't feeling the safest. But instead of having my back, he accused me of being the aggressor, basically. The majority of today and this evening I have cried and cried and cried. I kept telling him it wasn't true and that he was being unfair, but he didn't believe me. The only thing that finally made him stop accusing me was when I told him by doing that would make me just as bad as my dad when he abused me. You can call me lots of names or tell me I'm a bad person, but I would never do that to my stepson because it is abusive. If there's one thing I'm not, it's a sexually abusive person. I've also been raped numerous times. So I would rather die than put somebody in the same position as others put me in. It was at this time he told me he'd gone online and filed for divorce. As I'm sure you can imagine, I fell apart. He's only been detoxing for just short of 4 days, and he's already decided this. After talking a bit, he has finally agreed to couples counseling. I have no hope that it'll work though. He already told me he doesn't love me the way he used to, but I don't love him in the same way either. After so many years together, nobody loves the other person in the exact same way. People change, love changes, our looks change, the weather changes. Everything changes. I'm hoping I haven't left too much out due to my forgetful self. Fibro fog can be really awful. Not to mention my stress level is through the roof. I've also lost quite a bit of weight since our eviction, 20 to 25 pounds, and I'm not physically or emotionally feeling so great. I've been sick with one thing after another since early summer, and am only just now beginning to physically feel better. I'm asking for general help and/or suggestions, not a moral judgment. Is there anybody out there that's been in a similar situation, and if so, how did you deal with/resolve your situation? How about that one? Let us have your thoughts and advice down in the comments section. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to check out our other videos and, as always, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Never forget that your smile is your best feature. Wear it proudly. See ya!